Hello and welcome to yet another episode of WiP WonderWoman. Today we feature Dr. Shilpa Suri, who has 2 decades of academic and industry experience as a psychologist, trainer and educator par excellence. Welcome, Shilpa.
Thank you so much, Mandeep ma'am.
Let me read a little bit about you so that all our members come to know. Shilpa is a founder director of 2 academic institutes in Chandigarh, Planet Psychology and S&M IAS Academy. She and her team train budding psychologists to become competent professionals and groom civil services aspirants for the prestigious civil services exam. She has an illustrious career as a lead faculty and consultant psychologist and chairperson in a lot of government bodies and associations based in Chandigarh. I'm going to put a link of your resume in our post. Okay, so to begin with, Shilpa, I would like to ask you, tell me about your journey thus far. What prompted you for a career in this field?
So first of all, Mandeep ma'am, thank you so much for this kind invite. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be sharing this platform and sharing this space with you. I would say that my career is more of a passion to purpose story, ma'am. I was 22 when I was finished my master's, had some early accomplishments in psychology. So at 22, me and a very dear friend of mine, who's a business partner with me now, we decided that we are adults enough, grown up enough, not to ask for money from home. So we need to start something. And we had a very humble beginning, ma'am. We started tutoring our immediate juniors who were doing their masters in psychology. And as luck would have it, within a year of my master's, I got married into a family which is very much career and growth oriented. And that was when we gave structure to that little initiative, and we called it Planet Psychology. And started from home, and then grew up, and we grew as persons, as professionals, and we started off the IS Academy. And when both these things, they got kind of established, so I started looking for more avenues, and that's when I explored training and therapy. So today I'm a very proud teacher, trainer, and a therapist.
Fantastic. So which aspect do you specialize in? Because there are some who do children, families, couples, etc. as a psychologist. Which aspect do you specialize in?
I would say that psychology is something, ma'am, where humans are, their psychology is. Got to read and practice a lot about human mind, emotions, and behaviors. But yes, parenting and motivation and performance is something that is very, very close to my heart.
I do see you addressing a lot of school teachers and students, and I think it's really, really inspiring about the things that you've been saying, because I've been seeing some of your speeches of late. Tell me, at what age parents should start becoming mindful of the changing patterns of emotions, in particular in children?
That's a very, very relevant question, Mandeep ma'am. I think parents need to attune themselves to the emotional needs of a child, or probably the emotional makeup of the child, what is technically called as the temperament of the child, right from the birth of the child. Because we are not born with personalities, ma'am. We are born with temperaments. So there are children who would be kind of slow to warm up. There would be children who are called difficult children, so they would have very difficult eating patterns, sleep patterns. They would be difficult to handle, cry a lot, would not be comfortable with strangers. So, and there would be children who are, merry and glee right from the word go. So it's so important for a parent to understand that what kind of a child they need to handle and take care of. And, children are born with a need to connect. They are not here to trouble us. There is an innate need in the child to connect, and that connection can only form when a parent is, as you said, mindful of the emotional makeup of the child, right from the time they fall in our laps, and we handle them from the beginning.
Even when they're very little and the language skills haven't developed, children do get moody and they get angry, frustrated, and stuff
Absolutely.
like that. So I mean, some of the good little schools which start at 18 months, 15 months these days. And I know the games that they play and saying, clap your hands when you're excited. And, you
Yes.
do this and, how you need to kind of who's sad, and they take a puppet or they take a doll and they tell you what,
Correct.
label the emotions. Is this a
Yes.
good way to go about for parents also, so that they can tell a child how to name the emotions so that the kids learn about it? Because they're very small. They don't even have the appropriate language skills when they're under 3.
Very true, ma'am. Very true. So, as I said, ma'am, we assume that we are logical beings, but we are biological beings. And emotions are the most primitive aspect of our evolution. Our education system is more about the cerebral and the cognitive aspects. But what we really need to sensitize children right from the beginning is to be aware of how they feel. If thought is the language of mind, emotions is the language of body.
Sure.
And you very rightly put it. If like children would pick up the emotional vocabulary exactly the way they pick up language. And but yes, it's very unfortunate that emotions is not considered to be a part of the curriculum, or it's not formally taught in schools, or it's not a part of our education. But if we start kind of emphasizing or addressing emotions from an early age, we will have children who would grow up to become more happier and healthier adults, because they would know how to process this integrated aspect of themselves.
I completely agree. I think this emotional regulation of
Yes,
the whole aspect is so important in children of whatever age group.
very true.
Obviously, it gets more difficult when they become teens, but even when they're younger, and they totally observe the parents and they understand. Because if you use a kind of a swear word, or you say something and they see you angry or they see you preoccupied, children completely understand and read you about what's going
True.
through. So if you share that with us, that, Mama has had a tough day and Mama is tired, or Mama is sad, because you lose a, parent or a loved one, and saying, why is Mama sad and what happened? Where did
Correct.
this thing go? And I've seen that these things, children understand very well. And there are such beautiful ads these days which describe these emotions in children.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you brought that up, that it's very important that we help label them so the kids understand what they are. There's nothing wrong in them feeling that way.
Not at all. In fact, it's human to feel emotions, ma'am. If you're not feeling emotions, that needs to be a cause of concern. But as you said, instead of labeling emotions, we don't process them. Rather, we shame emotions. There's a kind of a shame attached, a sense of shame that is attached with experience of certain emotions, because our perspective towards emotions is that of positive emotions and negative emotions, or good emotions and bad emotions. So I really want to tell here and state here and make it period that there's nothing called as a good emotion or a bad emotion, or a positive emotion or a negative emotions. It's just, ma'am, that there are effective emotions and ineffective emotions. There are emotions which help us deal with the situation in a more effective manner, in a healthier manner. And there are emotions like sadness, anger, fear, anxiety, which do not allow us to process an emotion properly. And, we end up making it even worse for ourselves, for people around us, and we become kind of maladjusted individuals. So I wish that we normalize our feelings and emotions, and we don't expect people to hide them, or we don't need to kind of suppress these emotions or repress these emotions. And emotions are for everyone, ma'am. Like crying is more something that we kind of associate it with girls, and we tell boys don't cry. But I always say this in my training sessions, that what's the first thing a baby does when it is born? Irrespective of the gender of the child, it cries. And in the socialization process, we create a disconnect amongst boys, especially between crying and feeling of crying. So we are desensitizing them to pain. And that's how, ma'am, men, they grew up to become insensitive sometimes. And so do we do with girls, right? Assertiveness or so-called aggression or speaking up for yourself is something that we consider to be a very masculine concept. So emotions are gender neutral.
That's true.
And we all need to, or we all are needed to be allowed to experience them in the most authentic manner.
Yeah, and be sync with them, exactly, and not run away from that.
Yeah.
Shilpa, how should parents recognize what is normal behavior and what is symptomatic of a bigger issue brewing inside of the children? Because sometimes these days, relationship between parents could be an issue. It could be a financial situation in the family. It could be a kind of a grief, something which has impacted the family, and the children do not know what's going on and how to express. They can be confused, or they can. Those feelings can come out in different ways that parents can totally be taken aback. What do you suggest in such cases?
I think you have done a great favor to the listeners by asking these questions, because so many times parents don't understand when it is time to pay attention to that particular aspect. So I think, ma'am, we got to look for intensity of an emotion, duration of an emotion, and how quickly is it dissipating. So it's okay to feel sad once in a while. It's okay for anyone to lose one school once in a while. But if it is happening too often, and if the intensity is something which is causing a lot of distress to everyone, and you don't see it dissipating quickly, rather the child is staying in that state for a very long period of time, I think it's time to ask for help. So I would, talk about 3 Ds that the parents need to look for. First D is dysfunctionality. If you think a certain kind of emotion has started interfering with the day-to-day life of a child, he's not able to make friends, he's a kind of started lagging behind in his studies. So that's the first, I would say, red flag to look for. And then second is deviance. And again, I believe that as parents, as mothers, we have that instinct in us which tells us that something is not okay, and it really needs to be attended to and addressed. It is not normal and it doesn't seem to be age appropriate. So that's the second red flag. And third, of course, is distress. If you see that the child does not seem to be the same child as he or she used to be, and too much of self-consumption, or too much of preoccupation, or too frequent outbursts and meltdowns, I think that's the time a parent need to take it a little more seriously than usual.
Does this also manifest in physiological changes like lack of sleep or weight gain or irritability and fatigue for low, energy levels? Because these things sometimes, I'll be very honest, I see more and more dual couples working, and the children are in the care of either one of the grandparents or helper at home,
Yes.
who may not be perhaps reading these signals which you are talking about of distress and things like that. And
Yes.
children these days surf the internet, they get seeing all wrong kind of things, and perhaps, or they have friends who may not be healthy friendships, and we just ask them to go in other things. So I think that physiological changes is perhaps the first
Very much.
that parents could catch. Do you suggest that they need to read that into it as well?
Absolutely, ma'am. There are many negative, positive symptoms which would come up, as you named one, lack of hunger, lack of sleep, lack of energy. And then we would have cognitive symptoms like lack of initiative, more fatigue, or an erratic kind of a eating pattern. It could be a lot of eating, which is binging, or it could be aphasia, like the child is just not feeling hungry at all. So there would be some disruption, certainly. The cycles would be disrupted, the circadian rhythms of the body, which two major ones are hunger and sleep. So one would certainly see some kind of disruption and some kind of unusualness in the behavior. Either it would be a lot of aggression, or the child will appear to be more passive than what his normal self used to be. So just look for those symptoms. Yeah.
I think the challenging aspects, I know when the kids are younger, it is easier to perhaps control is teens and above. I personally see that that is the time that, children also, their bodily changes also happening, and parents understand that there are a lot of confusion about it. That's also perhaps a time that they are attracted, or they want attention from the opposite sex and they don't know how it is happening. And this is the time that, the loss of confidence, or the entire thing, which completely connects with rest of the other bit. And they always feel that obviously parents don't understand. So at this point in time, I think connecting with them is the most important thing. And I think, as you rightly said, that it's very important to stay connected. So I want you to tell us, what do you tell when you go to these schools and fairs to tell? What do you tell parents and what do you tell children? And what is your advice to them as to how should they manage situations like these?
Okay. So, ma'am, to children, I think I always share it with them that, don't choose to do something because everybody else is doing it. And don't pick up an option just because it seems to be an easier option. Comfort zone is very comfortable, Mandeep ma'am, but there's no growth there. So that's one bit of advice that I share with all the children. And for parents, I tell them that, children need a very warm, loving, and a nourishing kind of environment with some clear-cut structure. And so as parents, I always give them this example that there are potter parents and there are gardener parents, right? So potter parents try to mold the child as per their dreams, aspirations, or what they feel is appropriate, correct. Whereas a gardener parent creates a very democratic and autonomous environment at home. But certainly there is structure, there are clear-cut boundaries, there is discipline that everybody's following. But at the same time, you're just letting the child be and growing into the potential that they innately carry in themselves. So, I think we need to raise children, Mandeep ma'am, with a sense of trusteeship and not with a sense of ownership. So that's one bit of advice that I would like to give to all the parents.
Shilpa, there were a lot of mothers and sometimes fathers as well, people who you meet who have low self-esteem themselves as individuals. And some of them also go through depressions. They get very worried for their children, to saying that, if I'm going through this, how does it affect my children? Are they going to also suffer from the same thing that I have suffered all my life? What do you tell them?
So, ma'am, we assume that parenting is all about raising children. I think parenting is a process of evolving ourselves as an individual.
Sure.
So, if you have unprocessed emotions, if you have had unacknowledged issues, I think you've got to resolve them first. Because children are monkeys, ma'am. They don't know any other way out. So if they see a depressed mom or an angsty mother at home, they assume that this is how life is, or this is the way you got to operate. So yes, you can take help of your partner, of course, but there is so much help available, ma'am, and there is you can ask for help. You can start off with your own healing, and your healing would reflect in how your child is growing up in a more healthier and happier manner. So I think as parents, as adults also, we need to address, acknowledge, and to take some action about the unprocessed emotions and childhood hurts and traumas.
People like you, I think it's very important to keep educating and letting people know that help is just a phone call away. And this is now, today, increasingly, they can virtually sit across a Zoom call and do it. They don't even have to turn up somewhere. It has become so much simpler. And I think, they have to start at some point in time if feeling confused about it. That's the first step.
Thank you for this conversation, ma'am, because this is one step closer to letting people know that help is available.
Yes, I know, and you do speak about a lot of things on conscious parenting and sort of thing. I think it was important to have you for a chat today, because I thought you'll be able to explain to people what are the things that you do, and that'll become nicer. Tell me, what is your life motto, Shilpa?
My strongest desire is to live as to be and a living prayer of peace. And my motto is to think, feel, and act in harmony with peace and joy. So whatever I do, whatever conversations I have, the sessions I hold, the trainings I take, that is my prime motto, to be able to help people to have a more peaceful and a more joyful life in existence.
How lovely. That's really nice. I think as humans, we are emotional creatures, and I think our emotions influence the decisions we make, the careers we take up, the art that we are drawn to, the movies we see, and the music that we listen to. So emotions actually help us choose our friends, those whom we fall in love with, or who we stay close to all our lives, and we, for all those who we leave behind, sometimes is also because of something or the other about them that we don't like. So emotions have power, and I would like to tell all our members that emotional intelligence is the ability to harness that power, to understand and manage emotions. And you have people like Shilpa today who help you make those decisions, so that you stay in harmony with your core values and your principles. So I hope you enjoyed our little chat. Shilpa, thank you so much for being here today and giving us your time to share with us. We would like your social media handles so that we can mention it, and our members can be, can reach out to you as and when they have a question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mandeep ma'am, for having me here and thinking about the need for this conversation. I'm so grateful for this thought and this little interaction we had about emotions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.